Dave, you know how I know we don't have it anymore?
Go ahead, caller.
You started counting early. You kind of with me when I was doing the countdown.
I did.
You did the countdown.
I was so excited. I just got in there. And started doing it.
You don't say it's like, you know, like when Wayne was nodding his head to like the countdown in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you just go.
This is what happens when we don't have audio syncs for, 3 weeks or whatever.
It's been a month, I think.
Yeah.
It's been 1 month.
And I'm I'm on the microphone.
I mean, twist.
What a twist.
We're back.
Just for this one, to be clear, at least for the moment. But we'll see.
For the foreseeable future,
For the moment. Hello and welcome to episode 302 of The Dive Down, a Magic the Gathering podcast focused on the latest decks, trends, and strategies for the casual spike. I'm the Godfather here in the western suburbs of Chicago, and with me on the line from Denver, Colorado, inexplicably, it's the one and only, coming right back out of retirement like Michael Jordan wearing the 45.
Kicking and screaming.
That's me.
It's the one and only Shane Beeps.
Yeah. Remember that retirement?
Yeah, Shane, I have to ask, what the are you doing here?
It's the naughty boy era,
Great.
the nasty.
That's right.
What was the era of WWE?
Attitude era.
Attitude era. Yes, it's the attitude era of the dive down. I mean, I can't not hang out with my friends at the bar, talk about the big game, talk about this crazy crap that's
It's
happened.
a really big game today.
And additionally with us today, it is Stanislav.
What's up?
There in Chicago, nursing some stuff.
Yeah, it's not even a cool nursing, like hangover, drank too much. Feels that way, I suppose, but I'm just plain old sick.
Ugh. And also with us from Western Massachusetts, Devin O'Donnell, a.k.a. Doom Wake.
That's me. What up?
Devin, it's been a very exciting 24 to 30 hours for you. I know. I can't wait for you to debrief us because I think there's a lot of briefing.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is definitely a lot of briefing. I was going to say not a lot of briefs, but definitely some briefing that will be going on. This is quite the announcement.
I heard the games are pretty short now. I guess we'll see about that in a little bit. But on this week's show, you might be asking yourself, how am I hearing these voices right now? They're supposed to be on hiatus. You may be asking yourself, I wasn't expecting Christmas to come early for the dive down to return for this one episode, or for the play design team at Wizards of the Coast to drop an unbelievable bomb on us fans of the modern format in the form of a BNR announcement with 3 bans and 4 unbans. 4 unbans. I wanted a single unban. We received 4 unbans, and I don't know if you saw the chatter.
That's 400%.
It was almost 6 unbans. We can talk about that more later. But that's what this week's show is.
Give me the artifact lands at that point.
This is like 3 years worth of content they just gave us in one announcement, It's wild.
It was wild to watch how fast people were trying to get content up on YouTube yesterday, I will tell you, or seeing people on Blue Sky being like, I got my reaction video up. You know what? As is the dive downs want, we're going to take it easy. We let it simmer for about a day and a half. We're going to edit this episode properly, but we are here with takes.
Well, in our old age, it does take our brains a little bit more to process these kinds of things. So it's just a natural flow.
Yep. But first, some housekeeping. Shout out to Heavy Play. You may have time, you may not have time to order from their website for the holidays at this point, but you can go down to your local card store, grab some stuff, or maybe try to buy something for yourself to show up a couple of days after Christmas at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you can get yourself a New Year's present.
Yeah.
Those are things I just made up.
A New Year's present. I mean, yeah, why not? We're always trying to treat ourselves. Heavy Play, longtime sponsor of the show. In fact, not even really a sponsor at the moment. But that's okay. We love them anyway. And this is our Christmas present to them, reminding you all, go buy Heavy Play.
We have an affiliate code.
We do have an affiliate code.
We could get a little kickback if you buy Heavy Play through us, and we encourage you to do so.
Yes, I forgot. As a fellow digital marketing person, Stan, I should have remembered the affiliate code. So go to heavyplay.com, use our code, the Dive Down 2024. We'll get a little kickback. You'll get 10% off your first order. Love them. Heavy Play. Go check them out. Additional housekeeping. Somehow, the ranks of the Dive Down Nation have continued to swell, even though we have not released content. We have had people join the Patreon over the last month, including His Forest, Rasmus J, Antimony 12, Harry K, and Alex. Thank you all for joining / returning. I think at least one of these people is a returning patron. And so we appreciate your support. Obviously, we will be back sometime in January to talk about the journey to Portland and Charlotte. But for now, this is your little taste of the good life that only the Dive Down can bring you.
If you want to be like all of our nice patrons, you can go to patreon.com/thedivedown. Get some stuff sent your way. Most importantly, perhaps help keep us going a little bit. We're going to do this either way. I got to be honest with you. You see me here. I couldn't stop.
I can't believe that. Still.
Well, can you really not believe, after this announcement, you cannot believe that I wanted to hang out?
I bet it would have taken less to get Shane to come groveling back.
The bands would not have been enough. I'll tell you that.
I bet
This
he
is
would.
basically The Undertaker coming back for like his 10th WrestleMania appearance after he retired 10 times or whatever, you know? Can't keep him away.
I feel about like a Jake the Snake Roberts. Maybe Hacksaw Jim Dugan.
Do you think that we would have gotten him back with a preordain level unbanned stand, or did it need to be a Faithless looting level unbanned?
I don't think a single blue cantrip would have done it for Shane.
Okay.
Outburst would have done it.
Outburst, yeah.
Outburst, we would have gone full hardcore back to video content with all of these things.
Probably, yeah.
Paid placements to try to grow the Rhino Boys.
I have to admit, though, like, Violent Outburst would have been boring. Violent Outburst would have just been like, we're just going to rewind the nerf to Cascade. Like, this is much more exciting.
You're telling me they unbanned 4 cards and one of them was not Violent Outburst?
Yeah, sorry, Stan.
One of them was not. We need to talk about mana traders, though, because they changed up the way that mana traders did coupon codes. Okay, so the way it works now is if you use our code, the Dive Down, your favorite code is back in text form. This code will not change in the future because we picked the permanent code option, and the permanent code option gets you 25% cash back to users after the 3rd month of their subscription. So basically you sign up, you use it for 3 months, and then you get 25% cash back. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's like literally a credit, if it's like Mana Traders bucks, I don't know.
I think it's probably Mana Traders bucks. Yeah, but
Mana Traders bucks. Yeah, so you use that, you get 25% back, you help us get a few bucks. So spread the word, the Dive Down is back.
Yeah. I mean, you can go check out patreon.com/thedivedown as well. You can look at apparel on thedivedown.com if you want to, but there is no more need for any more preamble to this because we got a B&R to talk about.
Let's get into it.
Dateline. Renton, Washington, December 16th, 2024. Pioneer, Jegantha, the Wellspring is banned.
I literally did not even look at any of the other announcements.
Oh, you didn't look at that?
I looked at nothing else but the modern set.
Dave, I'm glad you started with the most important one with our first episode back, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll miss the guy. I honestly, okay, so modern, I mean, you know what this is. Modern, the One Ring is banned. Amp Raptor is banned. Jegantha the Wellspring, banned. I'm going to stop there for now.
Devin, you know what's cool? Both of us had MH3 spoiler cards banned now.
It's so funny, Stan.
That is true. Two for two, huh?
Do you remember when you got your spoiler cards and we were like, we got to talk about Flage for a long time. And then it was like, here's this other card, Amp Raptor. Seems pretty cool. And then we looked at it for a minute. Okay. We were like, actually, I think it's pretty good. And then we were like, actually, we think it's good. But it wasn't. We certainly didn't see the road leading here, right?
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I still remember the first day that I saw Nadu. I was like, man, that's pretty cool with like gut shot and stuff. Like, boy,
yeah. Shuko. Listen, do we have to dwell on the bans all that much? I mean, you guys played the energy deck. I played the energy deck online.
Isn't that why we're here, to dwell?
To dwell on the bans? Sure, let's talk about them.
I mean, here's what I think we should do. I think we should say what's banned and unbanned, and then I think we go into some choice quotes from the announcement.
Okay.
Which basically go in each of these sort of in order.
Okay.
And then we give our hot takes.
Okay.
I even think we take it one step back and talk about what we were discussing the day before the ban announcement.
Okay.
Because there's an emotional hook there.
Sure. Let's talk about Dateline, our Discord, December 15th, 2024. What were we talking about the day before the ban, Stan?
Well, I was dealing with my anticipated depression over our ban announcement.
Well, what was going to depress you?
Can I ask, wait, real quick? This is the thing that is hard, right? Like,
Yes.
actually, it is a thing that is hard. Anxiety about being upset about something. It's a hard thing. We all do that. So, I hope I hope you can be well if you're someone who also experiences the same thing, because I feel it too. I get it. I get you.
Yeah, I was prepared to be really disappointed because, I kept telling myself, like, I just don't want to feel stupid for participating in a card game and buying cards that they're just going to ban from under us, because there was so much chatter of like something from Boros Energy has to go, brand new deck full of brand new cards. Some of us have had fun playing with them. And I just didn't want to be the one that was left holding the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's okay to feel that way. And I think it's also okay to feel like Boros Energy was too strong. And days prior to the announcement, Aspiring Spike made a video that I thought was brilliant, where Spike's prediction was they should ban the One Ring and Jegantha and unban a card or two from a small selection of cards that he had suggested. And I thought Jegantha was like a really elegant solution. And I appreciated like the need for them to do something bold that wasn't just a reactive game of whack-a-mole, but to recognize they needed to inject fun and optimism into the format. And I had been feeling preemptively depressed, I think, because they hadn't really given us a lot of reason to expect that they would do that.
So I feel like the fear, it was like, we're going to get more of the same. We're going to get more feel bads, which is like, okay, they're going to take another card that they pushed a little too hard or was part of a overall push strategy. Like maybe let's say something like Cascade, where they took, Outburst from us, blah, 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 right? So it's like subtractive rather than additive. And I don't want to feel more subtracted in my life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is like, you get to the end of one of these cycles and you're just like, why are we here again? Another deck got to 30%. But I mean, the truth is it's going to happen a good amount with Magic, especially today, where the information like ecosystem is so cannibalistic, where people just kind of like decide that one thing is the best thing, and then people sort of all focus on one thing, and then they all start playing it. And then, what I'm really saying is that nut decking has ruined Magic.
Of course.
I'm just kidding.
Did you read that on rec.games?
One of the first complaints I ever remember from Magic, from the card store, people being like, net decking is ruining Magic, 1996. But really, I mean, people do seem to consolidate on things a little bit more, and then they seem to like wallow in it on social media, and like, yeah, it was sucky for a while, but it's so funny. Like a lot of the times that I played Modern, I never even ran into energy, or it was a small portion, but I know that it was out there and it was clearly bad, and we all knew the ring was bad.
Yeah. Last question before we get into the meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Devin, how did you feel Sunday night?
So a big part of this is kind of going back to what you were saying about the anxiety about not knowing what was going to happen. They haven't really given us a lot of good reasons over the past couple of years to feel confident that they are willing to make the right decision. You go back and look at, the Outburst ban, the Grief ban, the Fury ban. It feels like all of those were too late, past, maybe like a full format past them what they should have been. They're unbans. They unbanned what, Preordain, which was fine, but like whatever, who cared for the most part. And they just haven't shown us that they've been willing to make this huge step. And well, I think this is a pretty big step, right?
I mean, who knows what's going to happen? And here's the big step, just so that I can go through the story. Shane lives chronologically, and so we must move through this in a linear fashion. So the second half of it was the surprising part, of course, because there are 7 lines, as I mentioned, in the modern area of this announcement. The next lines are, Mox Opal is unbanned.
Damn.
Wow.
Green Sun Zenith is unbanned.
Her?
Faithless looting is unbanned.
Oh boy.
This is when I dropped the eye emoji and said, remember about my retirement.
Yeah. And then finally, Splinter Twin is unbanned. Now, I just want you all to imagine, because this is like my personal Magic chronology here, my personal relationship to Magic, the Vince McMahon thing of up to the laser eyes one. That's how I feel about these four cards in that order, of course, because I'm much more likely to play Faithless Looting and Splinter Twin than I am to play Mox Opal or Green Sun Zenith. Let's be honest. But yeah, that's what it felt like reading this. I was like, wait, what? 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 What?
Yeah.
Okay. Saving space for takes. Shane, you want to get into the meat of the thing? Okay.
So I want to get into what they were doing, right? Like, because I think Dan Musser.
I believe Devin, do you know Dan Musser? Did you ever play against him?
Not personally.
Okay.
I played against him a little bit, but
I think that Dan is a Northeast Ohio grinder. Like, I believe that he played around, we might have to take this out, Shane, but I'm pretty sure that he was like a person who played around the...
He's from Akron.
Yeah,
it says on the Magic Wiki, MTG Wiki.
I think he played around the Cleveland, Akron, Columbus competitive scene because some of the people I knew from back home who used to play Magic played against him. Interestingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dan wrote the modern part. And this gets in what you were talking about, Dave. It's like, what was the inspiration behind even like thinking in this fashion and what their mindset was going into this announcement? And that's actually the first words of his passage. Going into this announcement, it was clear that Modern needed the most help among our competitive formats. Probably true.
Yeah.
Our previous actions in August addressed the most glaring issue with the format Nadu, but things hadn't gotten much better. We've analyzed a handful of options to try and get the format into a spot that our players would enjoy and be excited about. However, we felt more was needed. Our players are the backbone of competitive Magic. We can observe tournament results, analyze the metagame, and dig into win rate numbers all day long, but it's all of you who are playing these formats, and at the end of the day, it is our job to ensure you're having as much fun as possible. Fun factor was too low. Need a higher fun factor.
yeah, and I mean, going back to, they mentioned Nadu and things like that. To be honest with you, even after the Nadu ban, which to be fair, felt like it was a little past its prime. I mean, I think they probably waited maybe a couple of weeks too long on that one.
Yes.
If they didn't have the schedule announcements, they probably would have been considered doing it the week after the Pro Tour or maybe even before. But even then, it's just, the energy deck just was not the most fun to play against or even to play with, at least in my opinion. The games, like a lot of them felt kind of scripted. Once one player had the one ring, there's just, in terms of the overall play patterns, just not the most enjoyable.
Here's one thing I will say. When I played Energy in the early iterations of it, I did think it was a very fun deck to play. It's when we all decided to put the one ring into it as well that I think it became a much more kind of rote thing, and it just became like this weird mid-range aggro deck with Necropotence in it. So I don't know. I do think, Shane, I want to give you the spotlight here for a second because you had a long screed in the days before this ban announcement about trying to measure fun and what that means as far as analytics. And it's weird because you talked a lot about this before this announcement came out.
Yes.
Because you're also not retired from the Discord, as become very clear.
So, why would I ever do that?
All too clear.
Yeah. So where were you coming from with what you were saying here? Because I think it adds a little dimension to Dan's point.
So, I mean, I think we could potentially save this for the end. I think we can probably revisit it because really what they're saying is like, we need to measure fun. Like, so my job is in customer experience research. Okay. And I'm not going to get in the weeds on what all that is, but that's what I do is I I help companies evaluate their customer experience. And there are two primary ways of measuring things, which is the like operational data of your like what they do, like stats, right? And Magic and WotC has all that. They have access to what people are playing, what the win rates are, what cards are potentially contributing to those win rates, all that good stuff, right? And they directly speak to that. We can observe all this, yeah. But at the end of the day, the other component is the experiential factor.
Right. So you could say that there's two types of data. One is observational data, the stuff that we can see that people are doing. And then the other half is how they're feeling about what they're doing or what they tell you about their experience.
In the biz, we call it X and O, experiential and operational.
Oh, do they? Okay.
So the experiential data is what's really hard to get, because you have to figure out, like, I mean, we know how to get stats. We know how to like look at Magic Online data and tournament data. What we don't necessarily know is like how to measure fun. And that's what people will always say is, how do you quantify fun, right? And there's a lot of people who know how to quantify fun. Like there's that's what Disney does. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what amusement parks do. That's what everyone in the business of entertainment does, is quantify fun and figure out what makes things fun for people. What my take was in the Discord, in the conversation, was that I have never been given a survey, which is one way of getting data from people, from WotC, like asking me, like, what do I like? What formats do I play? How much do I enjoy these formats? And like maybe some like key drivers of fun, right? And so my concern is, in the end, is I'm very curious how they are measuring how people are having fun. My fear is that it is reading Twitter and Reddit too much.
Okay.
That's my fear.
Fair. But I also think that there's an interesting thing here, which is that people often, when we look at something like this, they go, well, they have the objective data of what is happening within the format. They know what's beating what. They have guardrails set up to be able to alert themselves to what needs a ban when it reaches a certain win rate or whatever their metrics are, right? Yep. But it is valid as well for people to just say, it's clear that people are not having fun. We've become aware of that in some way, and now we need to make a change because of that. And I think people leave that out when they're talking about Magic a good amount, especially competitive Magic.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the last I'll talk about kind of, biz type stuff, but like the job of a good analyst is to merge your X and O data and reach good conclusions, right? Like, and that's how you quantify stuff, right? Like, is the impact on fun quantify, like hitting our bottom line of like players and people experiencing the game that we've created. And so I think it's a very good thing for Magic to say, sure, we've got the O data, we have the operational data, but the experiential data is trending down.
Right.
Well, and just the last point on this real quick, they don't necessarily even always use, like, a lot of people like to talk about, well, if your deck isn't, say, like, a certain win rate threshold, and they don't want to act on that, or they only act at like a 65 or whatever made up number they like to say. But the reality of the fact is, if you have enough people who are like consistently, you're seeing the people who actually play your game, like those people. A good example is Inverter. When Inverter, historically, what was it, like 49% win rate when it got banned? The numbers don't matter in that case. It's just like, are people enjoying the games that are being played? But a lot of people, they always like to say, well, it's only numbers based. That's not always true.
Stan, I'm curious on your take here, because I see you as one of the players I would look at first and want to ask in terms of like a person who I have seen become more competitive over time, but I think still at your core is someone who wants to have fun playing the game.
Yes. What's the question?
Oh, the question is, what is your take on their concept here? Like, how would you agree? Would you I don't think you're going to disagree, but like, what is your kind of level of agreement and buy-in with what Dan is saying here?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot to say that there's more to fun than just the cards available to us, but also format philosophy. And I think that's ultimately what they managed to get to here. And and why in our Dateline December 15th emotional chat, there's a way to suck the fun out of the game and your relationship with it when you feel like the people in charge don't have both hands on the wheel. And it's also thus easier to buy into the prospect of having fun when you want them to like experiment and want them to demonstrate that they're willing to take chances and push the envelope, not just with card design, but with format curation. So yeah, I think acknowledging that they needed to do something really fun was important, because the tenor of the conversation is always like, this is too strong, this needs to go. This sucks to play against, this needs to go. But actually talking about like, how do you inject optimism is one of those bits that's like, everyone can complain about the thing, but they never have a really good solution. I thought Spike's video, as I mentioned, offered like a really creative, good solution. Their eventual announcement, like, I think really captured the spirit of what Spike was trying to get at as well.
Amazingly.
Yeah. And ultimately kind of demonstrated that they do know what the players want, even if the players don't always know how to communicate that, and even if the players don't necessarily know what it is they want. I don't know that I would have gone into Monday saying like, I want Splinter Twin, Faithless Looting, and Green Zenith back, but I wanted them to do something really big and bold, and they were able to deliver on that desire in a way that clearly they only were able to recognize how to do that exactly.
I think they also were very willing to like let a finger on our monkey's paw curl. You know what I mean? Like, I think we'll talk about that as we get into this announcement, which is like, yeah, if you guys think this is going to be fun, if you all think it's going to be fun, have fun. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. All right. Next area. In the August announcement, we had stated there wasn't a dominant one-ring deck. It's propping up fringe archetypes. While it does appear in many different archetypes, it also solidly became part of the most dominant strategy. The opportunity cost is too low. Its presence in events has become tiresome. Acting as a tool for self-preservation and a source of card advantage requires no commitment to any particular color. We believe it is clear, and as it has been for many of you, that Modern would be a more enjoyable format without its inclusion, and thus the One Ring is banned in Modern. Least shocking paragraph I've read in a while. I will go back to when the card was spoiled, and our reaction to it on the show. Devin, you were not on this particular episode. So
no, this predates me.
Yeah, so you got a pass on this particular thing because this was spoiled well before the set came out. Was like, this might be the best Teferi 5 ever printed. And I kind of think that was actually true in a way. It's just way, way, way better than we ever thought.
Hold on, the One Ring was spoiled before Devin was on the show?
It was either before he was on the show or it was an episode that Devin was not on.
I think it was before, because I've been on for what, year and change?
Almost 2 years. Yeah,
2 years, bro.
2 years now. Yeah.
Time flies.
It does fly. So I think that it might have been just an episode where you weren't quite on nearly every week in the way that you are now.
Maybe that. Okay.
But I will also mention one of the not funniest things, but something that was interesting to me anyway when I think about it is the biggest YouTube video that we ever put up, the most views that we ever had, is a video that says One Ring underrated, Goblin Bowmasters overrated is the thumbnail, and people went crazy for that, at least as far as our metrics go. So, it's been a hot topic for a while. It's fascinating that the One Ring, I think, was a little underappreciated at the time of spoiling. And then as soon as people played it a single time,
yep,
they were
One
like,
game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember when I don't remember not being in the episode, but when I first saw that card, the first card that came to mind for me was Jace the Mind Sculptor, just because, like, comparing it to 4-mana cards that have card advantage, it's like Jace provides you some protection, obviously not nearly as completely ubiquitous as the actual protection from everything.
Right.
But yeah, no, I didn't think we'd ever be at this point, but just from looking at the card initially, but yeah, like you mentioned, as soon as you cast that thing for the first time, it's just like, I feel like this is not something I should be able to do.
Yeah. Let's pour one out for the Dimir control deck that was originally playing the One Ring. And we were like, this card is cool. And then, we took off from that.
And then one of the premier aggro creature decks in the format was just like, sure.
That Dimir control deck was like everywhere before the Pro Tour. And I think a lot of people who were at the Pro Tour thought it was going to be the thing or the deck to beat. And I don't think anybody played it.
No.
That was funny.
All right. We'd like to ensure that we reduce the overall win and play percentages of Boros energy directly, though we don't want to eliminate from the format like we did with Nadu. We considered many cards in deciding how to knock Boros energy down a few pegs, and we landed on Amped Raptor. Amped Raptor allows for some of the deck's most explosive starts, acting as an energy enabler and a payoff, and often amounting to an extra 1 to 4 mana in the early turns of the game, so it's banned.
I think it may have been interesting to see how Raptor operates in a world where you can't cascade into the ring on turn 2.
Yeah.
But I think it would enable too many other broken things, like cascading into Blood Moon and
Fable the Mirror Breaker.
Fable. Yeah, just it giving you free cards for 0 opportunity cost.
Yeah.
I think it's fair as a way to take down some of the deck's most broken plays without actually dismantling what the deck does at heart.
Yeah, I'm personally a little surprised that they did fire another bullet at energy. To be honest, I kind of felt like maybe they would let it sit for a minute. This card does make the most sense to me, though. I'm glad they didn't get rid of any of the core cards that were core to the theme and just got rid of like one of the better value cards in it. And it's like, okay, let's see how annoying Goddess Souls is from here. Yeah. But
yeah, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I kind of sort of agree with your sentiment where if your plan is to just specifically address energy, like let's say in a hypothetical world, they didn't have any of these crazy unbans lined up, I think that banning the ring and something else from energy just to make sure that it's not like we got to get some other decks in the metagame. So I think if your plan is to not drop a bombshell and be like, hey, here's, go build 30 decks or whatever, because that's what you can do with these 4 cards, then I think that makes a little bit more sense if they want to leave or if they want to also ban the Raptor. It's a little weird to see such a big stance taken on Boros energy while also reintroducing all of these new archetypes, because you would think that Boros energy, like who knows what the format would look like if people still could play Boros with Raptor and all of these other new cards.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you what this smells a little bit like to me?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when Wild Nacatl was banned?
Oh, yeah.
It feels a little bit like a few years from now, we might look at Amped Raptor in the same way that we look at at that card.
Sure.
And go like, is it really that powerful? Like, so.
I think it's the ramp.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure it is the ramp.
It's the mana cheating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. But I still wonder if we might wake up a couple years from now and go, we can unban Punishing Fire and Amped Raptor or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm fine with them taking a shot at it too. I don't really care, and I'm glad it wasn't a card that everybody's upset about how much money they spent on it, and I don't think it kills the deck. So I'm sure we'll talk about that more since Devin has been playing a lot. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but
yeah, and I think the conversation would be very different if they had hit Goddess Souls or Ocelot Pride.
Yeah,
where it's harder to imagine the deck functioning with those cards gone. Maybe there'd be some type of red-white aggro deck that could function with whatever remains.
Right.
But Amped Raptor, it was always a obvious 4 of, but it just kind of feels like it's not a piece of glue that holds everything together. Yeah. It's just kind of like the cherry on top.
I guess with no 2-drop energy payoff and no card draw, we're all just going to have to go back to Unstable Amulet now, huh?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm down. One last note on Amped Raptor. I think it kind of, for me, initially I thought maybe Goddess Souls would have been a better ban, but Goddess Souls kind of does kill the deck outright because you really need that constant source of energy. But the one last note I want to hit on Amped Raptor is that element of variance, which is like for both players, it's like, when this card is cast, it can either be a 10 or, like a 2 or a 3. And it's just decreasing the level of variance, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yep. All right, now the spiciest part. In my mind, maybe not. So the next paragraph is, as far as banning Jegantha goes, many of the same reasons already explained above apply to Modern. Okay, so there's some stuff in Pioneer. I think we all know what it means. But ultimately, the decision to avoid cards that could have more than one of the same mana symbol isn't very interesting or fun decision to make. By making a couple of swaps in a deck build, you can get access to a mostly free 5/5, earning you a couple of percentage points in the win column. This reduces the pool of options you might consider when building decks, which in turn makes for an overall less diverse format. Jegantha's clocking in at 40% of all modern decks, which I did not quite realize.
Yeah, that's wild.
Heavily buoyed by energy, I suppose. From energy to zoo and several more fringe strategies to reduce the dominance of Boros energy and increase the amount of diverse card choices available in modern Jegantha, the Wellspring is banned. And I just imagine that Grim Reaper walking down the hallway meme.
Who's next?
Obosh, you've been on my list for
Kahira,
a while.
maybe?
Kahira, it's coming for you.
I thought you were going to see the one where the Grim Reaper is like taking the thing to heaven.
Was I a good elk?
Yeah, was I a good elk?
I mean,
you were too good.
Listen, Companions is the worst thing that Magic has ever had.
100%.
Quite literally.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Disaster.
This is a nerfed mechanic, a 5-mana 5/5.
Vanilla, essentially, although it helped with
good.
things sometimes, but
Was too good.
So we've had, 3 banned post-nerf,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absurd.
Guys, remember
Just like,
Luris?
what were they thinking?
Do you remember
Remember
Luris?
pre-nerf Luris?
Pre-nerf Luris. I mean, pre-nerf Magic was a fun format for 2 months. And then I was very glad that they nerfed it.
Maybe like a week.
I was glad it didn't
That's
go
all it
on
took for
forever.
me.
Yeah. But listen, yeah, whatever. Okay. I mean, I love Jegantha. I played it in many decks, being someone who plays prowess all the time when it's not even good. And it was always in the sideboard of those decks. So bye, Jegantha. Sorry.
I had this experience the other day where I played against somebody on Magic Online, and I'm sure you guys know the feeling. It's like you choose, like you win the die roll, you choose to click play first, and it's that pause that goes back to them for the reveal of the companion. And at first, I thought that it was somebody who joined a league like before the bans, and they're finishing up their Jegantha league, but it was a Karuga deck. So
Karuga. Wow, I mean, who knows?
Karuga
could be nice. For a minute, I thought it would be Karuga because it was just an up the beanstalk, but I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure that we'll come back to this again sometime in the future. I really kind of have no doubt that something else will be too low of a deck restriction, whether it's Kahira or Obosh or something. But
just ban them all. Like, can we just get this over with?
I really feel the same way. I think I said it after Yorion was banned. I was like, just get rid of all of them.
Yeah, like why are we chipping away at this? Like, I mean, are the people who want to play the little otter or whatever, like
Lutri.
Lutri, like they really just want to keep Lutring. I mean, that's cool. That's fun. Sure.
The fascinating thing is 5 of them have been banned in some format. That's the interesting thing.
I think they should just print more. But they should print more that are so bad that no one wants to play them to demonstrate to us that, like, see, it's not the mechanic that's overpowered. We just overshot it on this handful of cards.
Somebody would figure it out.
You guys remember for real? I mean, Ikoria was spoiled. I don't know if you all remember. The spoilers of Ikoria happened like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the COVID-19 lockdown. I remember being at home with my children, feeling like I was going to die because of just like working and little kids going crazy. And then I was like, I'm just going to watch the announcement of this at the same time just to like bring some joy into my life. And they showed Companions and I was like, whoo. That's going to be
sure
a problem.
about that?
Yeah, you sure about that? All right. And then finally, the last thought here is the bands above should do a decent job of making Modern more fun and balanced, but could it be even better? Well, Dan Musser.
Yes. The answer
Okay,
is yes.
well,
Real quick take. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Let's assume, hypothetical world, they stopped here. Would you have been content? I mean, Shane probably wouldn't be here right now, but
would I be content? I would not care. I would just be like, yeah, more of the same. More good cards are being banned.
I basically was thinking that was what was going to happen. Devin was some range of these 3 cards was going to be banned, or this kind of ban was going to happen. And I said in our like admin channel, the channel that Shane and Stan and I have where we talk about you and
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I did pop in there late that night because we had some of these like emotional conversations like Stan was saying. And I was like, I really hope they unban something tomorrow just to inject some positivity into the announcement. And, I think it was kind of shock and awe that they went for instead, but here we are.
Definitely got that shock factor.
Yeah.
let me
I think Shock and Awe is probably my favorite U.S. military operation in the last 20 years.
Mine was mission accomplished, for what it's worth.
Oh, that was a good one, too.
Related.
Speaking of mission accomplished, it is worth noting that this is what Dan is saying. It is worth noting this is the beginning of a new era.
Maybe the horizon of a new era, one would say.
Many of you have given feedback time and again. This is what I really want to know where this comes from. Many of you have given feedback time and again about the good old days of Modern, before Modern Horizons sets started increasing the power level of the format and making iconic decks obsolete. After long consideration, I wonder how long, we've chosen an initial list of cards to unban. We'll closely monitor how these cards impact competitive Modern events over the upcoming RC season, and come March 31st, 2025, tick, 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 evaluate how things are looking.
So here's the thing. There are huge Modern tournaments coming up in February.
Oh, yeah.
In January? Is Charlotte in January or is it in February?
I think it's after Portland.
February and March.
Okay. Yeah, because
This is going
Portland's
to
early
increase
February.
viewership.
I mean, listen. Sponsors line up for our podcast that's going to be fresh coming into the new year. This is the format for the RC. They're very clear. We are coming back March 31st to tell you if we screwed up or not. But otherwise, what will likely be two of the largest paper Magic the Gathering tournaments ever, or at least of the last decade, will have this format. The format that includes Mox Opal.
Real quick.
Yep.
Real quick before. So the only thing that I want to point out about this little blurb here is the dedication to the sticking to the scheduled ban announcements.
Oh, yeah.
I know that we discussed Spike mentioned this in his video, which I think he did a brilliant job at explaining this. How do we feel about this? Like, do you think it makes, I understand that there's some sort of, like, I'm trying to think of the best way, like the term to describe it, but in terms of like player confidence or buyer confidence, like, do you think that there is definitely some like feels bad where if they're like, oh, well, we're going to remove the scheduled ban announcements, and we're going to be like, okay, if we decide to wake up on a Monday and decide, oh, hey, this card X, Y, or Z is banned, do you think that is necessarily like a place they should be? Do you guys agree with what Spike was saying?
I don't, but I'll let Stan and Shane talk first if they have anything to say about this.
I mean, I think I agree with you, Dave, on this. I think I know your take, which is basically like structure is good and lack of structure is less confidence inspiring, just makes people ask for the next ban and be afraid to engage with the game. But I don't want to speak for you.
I don't think there's an easy answer. As much as I think Spike makes a really compelling point, honestly, I actually kind of think it's lose-lose.
I agree.
And,
sure. Yeah.
You know, when they don't have scheduled ban announcements, we get what Shane just described of just like people constantly assuming they're coming and constantly demanding them. When we do have scheduled ban announcements, we kind of get into the same situation that we were in 2 weeks ago, where no one really wants to participate in Modern because we know something's about to change and we're not really having fun with the format either. So, yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer. Frankly, I think they should be willing to do a mix of both. Like, if they have to make an emergency ban announcement, just apologize profusely and say, listen, we have a scheduled announcement coming up, but we need to take expedited action because we want you to have fun with this format. And fun is our prime objective from now on.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I'm at. What you just said, Stan, which is basically like they should tell us that it's scheduled, but if they have to do something, they should not be too afraid to break the glass and be like, we're doing it. I just think it's always bad. Bad formats are bad, and there's always angst around bans, and there's more angst now than there's ever been because of the way that people can interact with their hobbies, and specifically Magic. And so I think every gaming community has stuff like this happen. Every game company kind of has problems with figuring out how to do this. I struggle a little bit wondering, should they be every 2 months and not worry about the RC season? But then again, if they ban stuff and people are planning to go to Charlotte, people will I almost said cry, which sounds very mean of me to say. People will complain and rightfully be upset about losing whatever money they paid for cards that were just unbanned for the RC season. So I think they do have to go on with this plan for now, which is we are pegged to the RCs, and that's what it is. Unfortunately, I understand what Everett is saying too, for sure. I think his perspective is a little colored by the fact that he ideally would play Modern every day if he had his way, right? And not everybody is doing that.
Right.
You know,
and I think a lot of that maybe comes from like his ability to switch, and because he mainly just, he's a content creator, and it's a lot easier if you are in a digital realm to be like, okay, well, if they ban whatever this card, I can just go to my rental service, Meta Traders, whatever, go rent some cards, and everything's fine. I don't have to sell my $1,000 deck that just got banned or whatever. So there's definitely a huge divide in terms of paper versus digital in that regard.
Yeah. But bottom line, I think Stan is closest where he says there is no good answer here. Like,
correct.
It's just rough either way.
You can't please everybody.
With bans, I don't think you can please anybody unless you do something crazy like this. And so this is what we've done. The format that we have in Modern now includes former infamous cards, as Dan said, Mox Opal, which was banned in the beginning of the dive down, 2019, right? I believe it was banned. Green Sun's Zenith was banned in 2011, was banned after the infamous Pro Tour Philadelphia. Faithless Looting banned during Hogak Summer, and Splinter Twin banned in 2016. My deck banned, I believe, on my birthday or on my birthday week that year.
Was your deck Splinter Twin at the time? They
Yes.
banned Splinter Twin on your birthday?
Yeah, I believe so. Oh, December. They banned it a month before my birthday. December 6th. No, that's this one. All right.
Okay.
I'm looking up the exact date. Anyway.
Let's get into their rationale for these unbans.
The day after my birthday, they banned it.
Well, it's okay. You had the celebration, then you had the reality.
Yep.
You had the hangover.
Yep.
We took a couple shots to elevate artifact strategies in MH2 and MH3, but alas, the power simply wasn't there. Mox Opal was banned in 2020 after the introduction of Horizons, which included our good friend Urza. I love the language they're using here, which included our good friend Urza, Lord High Artificer. While opening hands containing Mox Opal can be quite explosive, you don't say. It's not like we ever stopped printing strong anti-artifact cards, looking at you, Meltdown and Wrath of the Skies. Our expectations are that the reintroduction of Opal will give rise to several interesting artifact strategies, both new and old, without adding any power to strong decks. That's an interesting statement. I guess they mean like already
Decks that are
existing strong
already
decks.
good. I
Yeah.
think that's also a little wrong, but we'll talk about it.
And so Mox Opal is unbanned in Modern. This is something.
Yes, Devin, I watched your reaction video, or I had your stream on when you played your reaction video before it was posted again. You got up and
I lost it.
ran around your filming area.
I lost it. This is like, I've been playing Modern, like for listeners at home, to give you a little bit of context. I started playing Modern in 2016, late 2016, early 2017. And I only played Affinity. It was the first deck I ever got into. It's the only deck I've ever played, and I played it up until it got banned in like late 2019, early 2020. And I stopped playing Modern for the better part of 6 months because I was so devastated, and I never thought we would be in this position. I still can't even believe it. Like, pinch me, I feel like I'm dreaming right now.
Yeah. Shane was also an Affinity person.
I loved it.
That was the deck that you bought when you bought into Modern originally.
That was my second deck.
What was your first?
This is your routine false advertising
It was
of
your
my
first
history of
real
Modern.
deck
It was my first real deck. Yes, my first deck was like Esper Mentor stuff.
in Modern.
Modern.
Yeah. Think of the power disparity between Esper Mentor in Modern and then Affinity. Yep.
Yes, that's quite a different thing.
Yeah, quite different. I never thought they would unban Mox Opal. Full stop.
This is something else. Talk about cheating mana.
Yeah. Stan, thoughts?
Kappa Cannoneer was unbanned as well.
Exactly. As part of this. I mean, Hardened Scales was maybe also unbanned, depending on what happens, I guess. But there's a chance that the Kappa decks are just better, really. I don't know. Okay, so should we go through these bit by bit and talk about observations,
curious.
or would you want to go through the announcement?
I kind of want to. I mean, I think we should talk about our takes and it might make sense for Devin. You've been playing a lot, I imagine, in the past few days.
I did some long streams.
I don't know if you want to get into some of your thoughts on your initial impressions of these, like what people are playing with them and what you're playing with them.
Yeah, sure. So, as Dan mentioned in his article, which is, I think, a very good point, this little sentence right here, while opening hands containing Mox Opal can be quite explosive, it's never... That is certainly true. That certainly stands true. The hands with that card feel sometimes kind of unbeatable. The one thing that I just want to mention here, the line here where it says it's not like we ever stopped printing strong anti-artifact cards. Looking at you, Meltdown and Wrath of the Skies. While I do believe that to be the case, I think you could kind of make the same argument for a lot of cards in the ban list that also have sort of like anti, you know what I mean, like anti like whatever land cards or anti ways to remove this card from the battlefield or cards that are good against that type of strategy. So I don't necessarily know if I like sort of pointing that out as a thing. But yeah, I mean, this card is completely cracked. I've been playing a lot of Affinity, so like obviously like 2024 sensibilities Affinity with like Kappa Cannoneer, Thought Monitor, things like that. So that's what I've been mostly playing it in. I tried it in a couple of Asmo shells as well because it plays nicely with like the Cookbook stuff because Cookbook gets you artifacts for Opal. Yeah, but my early impressions is what the hell were they thinking with this one? This is the one that seems the most out there to me.
Yeah, for what it's worth, same. As I said, and I also feel like, wow, this one is the most financially risky for anybody. Although the card was $80, I think it's up to $150 now to try to get a copy of Mox Opal. And but it's really good, and it's going to be good. It's going to be legal at least through the RC season. So, so you said Blue Affinity. You've seen it. You've been playing it in. You tried it in Asmo. It used to be in Hardened Scales, as I said before. Mox Opal was banned.
Spike tried that today.
Oh, he did. I didn't get a chance to see that. It was also, of course, in Urza or Lord High Artificer Urza decks, and the other deck that people I think are expecting it to be in is Breach. Is that right?
I haven't seen anybody play Breach. I have seen a couple, and this one might interest you, Dave. A couple Hammer Time decks.
Oh yeah, Hammer makes sense too. Yeah, that seems cool to me as well. But I will play this card online. There's like no shot I'm going to buy a play set of these paper.
Same.
Unless I'm all of a sudden thrust into the Pro Tour through a kindly bid to an old man or something.
There was a deck that I messed with earlier today. I have no idea. Full disclosure, listeners at home, I have no idea the viability of this, but it was Belcher, but then you also played Mox Opal and Mox Amber, and then you paired Springleaf Drum Moonsnare with Thopter Memnite, and then your legends were Tameo and Emery.
Yeah.
And Emery rebuys Belcher.
Yeah, that's unreal.
So like if somebody can figure that deck out, that's the one that I'm scared about.
Belcher Mox.
Yeah.
Stan, any thoughts on Mox Opal before we move on? It's not really your card, but maybe, yeah.
No, never really has been. But I mean, my feelings on Opal are actually kind of the same with all of the unbans, which is like it's an example of a very diverse test of like whether or not the overall Modern Horizons infused power level can match like the broken cards of yore.
Yeah,
exactly.
And yeah, not to really like spoil my opinion on all of them, but like I think that's just the only way to describe Mox Opal in the context of everything else.
Yeah, this is a shot. This is a shot to take.
Yes.
I mean, let's come back to that later though, because I love that as like a bottom line for sure, because wouldn't that be the best outcome of the Modern Horizons era is if we made all these other powerful cards so that the other powerful cards you can play with again, and Modern is just super powerful now?
I don't know if I would describe that as the best outcome.
Okay.
But maybe we can put a pin in that question.
Sure. Okay, next card. You guys ready to go on the next card?
Yeah.
This is a card I've never thought about that much because it's green, and that is Green Sun's Zenith. Should I read Dan's whole thing?
I don't really care about Green Sun Zenith. I don't like. What is this card does stuff?
Today's green creature-based decks are few and far between, Even Basking Brood Scale combo decks can't use Green Sun Zenith to find its namesake. Yawgmoth can't use it. They do not mention Primeval Titan, or they do very slightly. Maybe old favorites like Dryad Arbor and Primeval Titan will be entering more often. I don't know, guys. Titan's still pretty good.
Well, that use of entering instead of entering the battlefield, real loose.
Yes.
Well, for me, the worst part about that statement is old favorites like Primeval Titan. Guys, wasn't Amulet Titan like one of the best decks just a couple of weeks ago?
I mean, it always is
not?
one of the best decks. It's just depending on, is it the week of the month? You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily buy this whole old favorite Primeval Titan nonsense. I'll be honest with you. I've never really even thought about Green Sun Zenith in Modern because it was banned, 2 months into the format, and we've never seen it ever since then. The only decks we've ever seen Green Sun Zenith in, it also had Wild Nacatl.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to mention, so it was banned September 20th, 2011, like I said, after this Pro Tour Philadelphia, which is the first big event that had Modern, that was full of big storm decks and Blazing Shoal decks and all this stuff. It was banned. Cloudpost, Blazing Shoal, Green Sun Zenith, Ponder Preordain, and Rite of Flame were all banned in the same announcement.
One of those cards is not like the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And Green Sun Zenith, it says on turn 1, this can give acceleration by getting Llanowar Elves or get a Llanowar Elves in Green Sun in Modern and show me what happens. Or a Dryad Arbor. Later turns, it gets a large toolbox creature like Gaddock Teague. Blah, 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 blah. It can also get Primeval Titan onto the battlefield. It ends up with fewer decks being played in practice. It's such a good choice. There's fewer green decks that can do anything. So they're saying they got rid of it to try to increase diversity among modern green decks. We'll see. I did see a 5-0 list that someone posted in the Discord that was Maverick, which was pretty
wild,
interesting and cool, which was like a thing in Legacy for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of a big taxes. Is that the idea with Maverick? It's kind of like a chunkier taxes kind of vibe, or...
Yeah, so the thing about Maverick and Legacy is they use stuff like Wasteland, so they have a lot more actual taxing.
Right.
And I question the viability of a strategy like that without Wasteland, because that's kind of your big payoff from that of the Reliquary.
Yeah, it's the same reason Vile tax doesn't work in Modern, is that the land destruction is terrible.
I'm going to propose something wild, which is I think most modern players might not even know what Green Sun Zenith does.
Oh, 100%.
That includes myself.
Yeah, so it's
I'll read.
X and a green sorcery. Search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's library. So I don't know much about the history of this card besides people really didn't like it with the tree land elf arbor tree thing.
Yeah, it's because you can play it for 1 and get another land.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which is also a creature, I think, which lets you do slightly weird stuff that, of course, only that card enables. So, but I mean, it does. It's just a tutor, right? It's a tutor.
It's a tutor that puts it directly into play for the cost of a single mana, which is very, very good. Or for the cost of a single mana,
plus
in addition to the casting cost of the creature that you go get.
Yep.
So, it's about the most efficient Court of Calling you could ever imagine, is what it is.
Yeah. That's actually really interesting because I didn't think much about this card because I typically sort of equate it with decks that I don't really want to play. I don't know if these are going to be good in Modern, but for someone who has some affection for, Selesnya style creature combo decks, this is fun, right? This is something that lets you go get your Devoted Druid. Not going to happen, but this does, right?
This will be something that people use to try out to see if that deck works. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. Absolutely. To see if that kind of shell works. They'll probably, yes, because you can fetch stuff with it, unlike the brood scale thing, like Dan was saying in the announcement. I do think that people are going to be really annoyed about how good this is in Primeval Titan. And the other problem with it that Everett, I think, pointed out on his stream when he was talking about the card, unless it was you, Devin, because I watched some of both of you yesterday, he was like, it also allows that Primeval Titan to search up things that kill Blood Moon, and get them out of Blood Moon and get them out of Land Hate a lot more easily than they were able to before. So I don't know if this replaces Summoner's Pact. Like, I'm not a person who plays Titan, but this is like a much better version of Summoner's Pact.
Yeah.
They already had fetchable Blood Moon Hate because they could like hard cast a Primeval Titan if they have a forest out to like get Beseiju.
Right.
Yeah, it's just more copies of that because, like Dave said, they're probably not going to cut the Summoners packs. I would guess you would want to play both, but it's just added redundancy on that kind of thing. And I think the big difference is so Zenith, they sort of offered them something they already have. What they didn't have was additional 1 mana acceleration, and that's what Zenith offers you. The reason it was banned in the first place was that there was, if you go back to 2011, the cards they were searching for were like Knight of the Reliquary, Tarmogoyf, Wild Nikotl, not super powerful cards. The reason that it was so good and so ubiquitous was the flexibility. It could be a turn 1 ramp spell, or it could be a mid-range threat, or it could be a late game threat. It's just everything that you could ever want at any stage of the game.
I suspect we'll be annoyed with this card.
The last thing I want to note about Green Sun, which Dan also did point out, is I love the fact that it can't fetch Broodscale, Yawgmoth, or Heliod. Or the other one that I also looked at was Amalia, because I was trying to figure out like Samwise combo with Amalia and things like that. So there's a lot of combo pieces that it can't fetch. And I think when you compare it to an unbanned like Birthing Pod, it makes a lot more... In terms of that creature toolbox, regardless, leaving Amulet Titan aside, I think if you want to buff these creature decks, Zenith is a much safer unban than something like Pod. Again, sans the Amulet argument, because I think that potentially it might make Amulet too good.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, I don't think this is a card many of us will be playing, but a lot of people will be. Just so happens that the 4 of us aren't in the target demo for Green Sun.
We're not Zenith gamers.
Yeah.
Cube, though. Y'all played in Cube.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Stan, elves.
Yeah.
You interested in elves and modern at all with this?
Sure.
Always. A little.
Yeah.
He was paid to say that.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Let's talk about the best card.
I mean... I mean, this is the best card. I think. You don't think so, Dad? No, sorry. We just talked about Mox Opal. For me, Faithless Looting is the best card. I agree with that, and that's what it is. Faithless
it's the most.
Looting.
It's by best. I mean, it's the one that makes me sit up and say, "Sweet, like cool." Like I can't wait to see what people do with looting if stuff is good with looting.
One of the cards that died for Hogak's sins was Faithless Looting. You know what I have to say about that? Why did it take you 5 years to tell us that?
Was this?
They admitted it.
This was the most recent of the 4 cards that was unbanned? The most recent ban? Was this banned after Opal?
I think it was
Opal was
the
banned
same
after.
ban list.
No, it's this is 2019 in the summer. I believe Faithless Looting was banned, and then I said 2019 earlier for Opal, but then in the article it says it was banned in 2020.
Okay.
One thing so Opal was around with Oko. Like, I don't know if you all remember that particular metagame.
Yes.
Freaking,
Oh, I do.
Opal and Urza and Oko and yeah.
I honestly forgot that Hogak and looting were banned at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of just equated Faithless Looting's banning with general graveyard shenanigans being a little bit too good, and then being like, let's take a little bit off the top here.
It was a format where your 2 decks were Hogak and Mono Red Phoenix.
Yes.
Like, because even Izzet Phoenix had been pushed out by Hogak and Mono Red for that matter. So they just kind of like cut the top end of the format and then gave us Stoneforge and re-injected fun that way.
Yeah. Which was fun. I mean,
it was great. No, it was a good time.
Totally fine unbanned.
Yeah.
But this is the card that I am definitely the most excited about, surprisingly, even though I love Splinter Twin. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But Faithless Looting, it's just good. And I like drawing cards. And I like discarding cards. And I know people are going crazy for Hollow One right now because it was a deck that was almost good enough where it is right now. And maybe this will make it actually good. But this is a card that was in so many decks that I was playing in the kind of like 2017, 2018 era of Modern. It was in everything that I played. Mario Pyromancer, Phoenix, everything.
You know, it's funny about that you mentioned that, Dave, because I've had this realization the past couple of days as I was building decks. I look at my deck and I'm like, there's some graveyard synergies. And even if it's not a red deck, I'm like, can we just splash Faithless Looting in this deck? So I kind of share that sentiment of it just goes in so many different decks, and there's so many ways to utilize it.
Hello, Flage.
Yeah.
Put it in
I
energy.
think just putting it in Boros is a good idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is it better than... I mean, what's interesting, I'm sure people will be thinking about, are we going to put Fable the Mirror Breaker back into energy now? Maybe you just play Faithless Looting instead. Just get the cards. Don't worry about the token.
Well, bear in mind, energy lost 2 cards, the One Ring and
True.
and Raptor. So we have 2 cards worth of slots to fill.
Yeah, but I've seen things that I think are very cool with this. Like I saw Caleb D posted a 5-0 list on Blue Sky earlier that was like, here's the first 5-0 I've gotten with this season yet, and it was Mardu creativity with like Faithless Looting in it, just to discard your Archons. It was a persist list like they used to be, and I was like, that looks sweet to me. Like, cool, Faithless Looting doing a little bit of work there.
Didn't even mention the Lingering Souls that were in his deck.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Lingering Souls was it too. Yes. I saw one earlier from a different person that didn't have Lingering Souls. And then Caleb, that's right. Caleb's list had Lingering Souls, which was, wow.
Throwback.
Maru Pyromancer. Can I also play Bedlam Reveler again? Probably not, but we'll see.
Dave, can I interest you in Faithless Looting with a Tamiyo on the battlefield?
Yes. So let's talk about that for a minute. That's just a flip, right?
Insta-flip. It's really good. I played some looting Tamiyo decks today.
Here's the thing.
Boy.
I haven't played with Tamiyo yet because I don't feel like it's gotten... Like, I almost tried to play it in Dimir Oculus or Dimir Murktide, really, earlier. I played the Ring instead when I was playing at that RC with Stan, and also when I was playing online, but Tamiyo was in the consideration set. So I haven't gotten to flip one yet. It looks underpowered when you read it. Why is it good when you flip Tamiyo? What's the best part of flipping Tamiyo?
Just doing it so early.
Yeah.
Right? The way the card is balanced, right? It's designed to, like, assuming you're doing nothing else in the game of Magic, you play it on turn 1, attack with it on turn 2, attack with it on turn 3, turn 4, play your 4th land, pop 2 clues, bang. You know, obviously that's never going to happen in a realistic game of Magic.
Right.
But the fact that you can just go turn 1 Tamiyo, turn 2 immediately flip it, it's already on 4 loyalty before your opponent even plays their second lane of the game, if you're on the play, of course. And just the ultimate is as close to ultimate you win the game as possible. It's draw half of your deck. Like, it's draw half of your deck and you have no maximum hand size. So... Like, it's just, you win the game on the spot. So it's really good.
Yeah. So Tamiyo's, just if people, I might be the only person who doesn't know these off the top of my head. +2 until your next turn. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets -1/-0 until end of turn. -3, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's green, add a mana of any color. And then -7, draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library. Round it up, you get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. Yeah.
It's a lot. And if you think about the numbers, right? Turn 2, you flip it, it's on 4 loyalty. Turn 3, it's on 6. Turn 4, it's on 8. That means turn 5 ultimate. Like, that is... Now, I know Modern's a lot faster than it was back in the day, but if you're interacting up the curve, your blue-red deck is probably playing some mix of bolts and discharges or what have you. It's not that hard to just, like, do it on turn 2 with a looting and just ride that thing to victory.
Yeah. I mean, Dredge.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if Dredge can hang.
I saw some Sodak tweets.
I mean, Sodak winning with Dredge is like Finkel winning with a ham sandwich. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to see people who are bad. I want to see me play Dredge and see what happens.
Good thing you have total control over making that happen.
Oh man, Dave, that requires me to like go find my Russian Faithless lootings that I have somewhere. I took out of a binder.
I think there's a forgot my password button on Mana Traders that you can probably click.
All right, but I think the big bird in the room is: are we dusting off Arclight Phoenix?
Someone else has at least. I think I saw one or two
trophies. I haven't seen any lists yet. Can either you guys describe what those are looking at, or anything that would be surprising about them?
I saw there was a mono red one, which was, I don't know if you guys were talking about mono red Phoenix earlier back around the Hogak days. You could like literally copy paste a list from 2019, and that was the exact same list that 5-0'd. I'm not even sure they changed the card.
I don't think it will surprise you, Devin, given the fact that I like things like Hammer and Prowess, to know that I was a bit of a mono red Phoenix person.
That's sweet.
The first Phoenix deck that I played was Hollow Phoenix. Do you remember the Hollow Phoenix lists at the very, very beginning of when Phoenix came out?
No.
Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds like something we can do, though. I'm looking at an Is It list right now. They're on 4 Arclight, 4 Demolich. That sort of has some like additional Phoenix, consistency. 4 Consider, 4 Looting, 4 Gutshot, 4 Bull, 4 Preordain, 4 Thoughtscour, 4 Manamorphose, then a couple of one-ofs, a Pierce, an Iteration, 2 Force Negation, and 2 Tamiyo. To even like do the Tamiyo looting stuff. So, I mean, pretty clean list. 15 lands, 3 Synchronous Stupors, so technically 18 lands. But I mean, it's kind of what you would expect a Phoenix deck to look like. Just cantrips, burn spells, couple of threats. We're back.
It is nice that Phoenix has Consider now. That was 2 cards that never had overlap. And we used to really like dig to like Serum Vision, Sleight of Hands nonsense.
Yeah. Stan, are you going to do this? Are you going to try it? As you think about what you would play in Portland, are you going to look at this one?
I'm going to wait until we have
a little more
a clear metagame before I decide on anything. And to, I don't know, help someone win a bet from Devin's chat, like Skelementals on the menu, baby.
So there was someone in Devin's chat I saw that I happened to be watching, and I screenshot it and I sent it to Stan, and it said, "Are we going to hear Stan talk about how awesome Skelemental is," or something like that?
I was waiting for him to bring it up.
Skelementals.
Because now we also have Persist in addition to Unearth to get back our Skelementals. You know what's better than a 3-mana Skelemental?
Stan, I don't think you want to cast Persist on Lightning Skelemental.
Oh, yeah, gives it -1/-1.
Yeah,
Oops.
you don't want to do that.
It would be sick.
I mean, you could try, but...
What if I had something that also gave it +1/+1 at the same time?
That would work.
I'm going to cast Persist on my Skelemental. Stan's not of sound body right now, so we're going to forgive that one from him, but...
That's true. Although the Celsius tropical vibe is definitely helping a little bit.
That's good. Why don't you just stick with Unearth? I think that'll still do good work for you in that space.
Yeah. Can we talk about the existence of Detectives Phoenix in a format with Faithless looting? Like, is this a good thing? Is this a powerful like piece of the puzzle now, or is this like another cool tool in the toolbox?
I mean, Detectives Phoenix is a decent card, is what I would say. Devin, you had some fun with it with the carnivorous thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Flytrap. I played it in Hollow One lists after Gloomhaven came out. Gloomhaven? Gloomberg? I don't know what it's called. Gloomberg?
Bloomburrow?
Duskmorn?
Yeah, Gloomburrow. Duskmorn. That's what I'm trying to think
Gloomhaven's
of.
a good,
after
good
FOMO.
board game, though.
Yes, Gloomhaven. Oh, that's what it is. So Duskmorn with FOMO, like I played that Hollow One list that had Detectives Phoenix. Detectives Phoenix, I think, is a fine card. It's not amazing.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
But
I mean, I'm looking at, like you mentioned, Hollow One, and that's something we could maybe talk about too. These lists look very, very similar to what they looked like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's basically just 4 new cards. They still have the Channelers, the Goyfs, Bowmaster, Phoenix, Hollow One, Street Wraith. It's just, they just added some lootings and got 4 cards, which I'm here for it. There's quite a few 5-0s with this Hollow One deck too. It looks pretty promising. I
think there's 100% a chance that Faithless looting is enough to make that a legit deck.
Oh yeah.
It was not winning when I was playing it, and I'm a very average player, so the deck was not like powering me through wins, but it definitely felt like it was close to enough like synergy to be 1 card away. And turns out that 1 card is not a new card, it's an old card.
Yeah, another thing too that you mentioned, we were talking about the Flytrap. I think that looting probably helps that Delirium deck a lot too, where it just kind of smooths out your draws, gets you more consistent Delirium. Deck was kind of light on sorceries anyways, so I mean, it just the card just does everything.
Yeah,
this card does everything. That's the real thing, right?
But does it do too much? Does it
do too much? We'll find out. But yes, it's like just the number of things you do fill your graveyard, draw cards like for 1 mana is just it's so dope. So I cannot wait to see how broken it is. This is the card up there with Mox Opal that I do have the most concern about. Although I feel like WotC was kind of bearing the lead with the next card because.
Well, hang on. We'll talk about it in a minute. We'll
Okay,
talk about it in
okay.
a minute. Okay, the next card.
So the next card,
Go on, the next card.
Twin was banned back in 2016 after consistently being at the top of the metagame, taking down a few Pro Tours.
After Dave Harbarger's birthday,
The day after. So yeah, blah blah blah. They talk about why it's bad because you have to hold open mana. Replacing Splinter Twin with Kijiki doesn't cut it. So can 8 years of format evolution, that's crazy to think, keep the twin combo in check? We think it can. Answers exist that once didn't, including several 0 mana cards that can keep you alive. Solitude, Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, Flare of Denial have all seen competitive modern play. Each of them can solve the play patterns that twin decks once exhibited. Unlike Mox Opal, Faithless Looting, and Green Sun Zenith, which can each support multiple different strategies, Splinter Twin supports only one. But the whole point, this is a statement. But the whole point of today's reversed bans is to call back to the modern of yesteryear. The whole point. Each card was justifiably removed from Modern in the past, but times change, and we realize that Modern isn't what it used to be. Splinter Twin is symbolic of an era of Modern that people look back on fondly, and it is now free. Enjoy the memes. That's in quotes, by the way. Enjoy the memes.
I love that. They embrace it,
I mean, this is where they show their hand, right? Enjoy the memes. This is, I mean, to me, this is WotC saying, and this whole thing, and this is probably getting a little bit out of in front of my skis. Like, this format is about doing stupid crap and having fun with cards that you loved and you think you're still gonna love. So have fun. So Splinter Twin, I've already seen some memes. Definitely, where it's just like, I've seen you, Devin, be like, let's just put Splinter Twin in this deck and see what happens. Like, the Splinter Twin package is going to go into decks.
Shane, did you see when I was building Splinter Twin Rhinos on
That's when I was
stream?
there, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was watching that too. I mean, I saw you also build Twin Energy. I believe that Bamzing.
Yeah, Bamzing 5-0'd.
Already 5-0'd with Twin Energy.
Yep.
Oh no, is that going to be the move? Is that how I have to play Energy in Portland?
I mean, it looks fine.
Twin will be the Stoneforge Mystic of the Unbans. It will be, what do we shoehorn this package into? That won't be very good.
No, I don't think it's even good. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm glad to be wrong because I loved playing Splinter Twin. This is in an era when I was just messing around with Modern. I wasn't really playing a lot. I was just like playing with some of our friends casually around Chicago, and I had a Splinter Twin deck. So I never played it in a huge tournament. That being said, I don't think that Modern is in a state where you can really play this and expect this to be the win condition in your deck, at least the main win condition in your deck. Maybe where it's a secondary thing in a deck, it'll make sense. I guess I bring this up by saying I don't think it'll be even as good as Stoneforge Mystic was, for example, in say Hammer, where it's pretty important in Hammer.
Yeah.
I don't think Twin is going to reach that level.
That's a good point. That ended up being like the best and only real good application of Stoneforge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing for Splinter Twin for me is that, like you mentioned, it is sort of like it's very difficult to find a deck that can utilize this as its only plan. I've seen a couple of blue-red lists. There was a couple in the recent 5-0 dump, and the ones that look good to me are the ones that are playing like the wizard stuff with Thundertrap Trainer. I think I saw one that had Augur of Bolas, like actual factual Augur of Bolas, and then pairing that with stuff like the free counter spell that I forget the name, Flare of Denial. Using that as kind of like your backup, because if you have a blue creature in play with an Exarch, you can go for Twin. You can back it up with Flare. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of hype around this one, obviously, because this is the meme. Like if you ask people, if you ask somebody a month ago, what's like maybe the card that's never coming off the ban list, I'm sure a non-zero amount of people would have said Twin, not just for power level reasons alone, but just because this is not something that they've been It almost feels like a changing of the guard in terms of what they are willing and potentially want us to play with. It's like almost like a new world out there.
Yeah. I just think time has passed it by.
Yes.
There's too many other good, there's as they say, there's Force Negation, there's Solitude. That's just 2 cards that are played in a ton of decks that really throw a wrench in what Splinter Twin was trying to do back in the day.
But that's a good thing. Like, it shouldn't be too easy to Splinter Twin for the win. Like,
no, I agree, but I
100%.
think that Splinter Twin was just one of those things where, like, the reason that it was really good was because the quality of interaction in this particular format was of a certain texture. And that was if you could get someone to be at 1 mana, they couldn't really interact with it, let alone 2. So if you could get someone to be tapped out, and by hitting their land in their end step with Pestermine or Deceiver Exarch, it was very easy to just be like confidently kill them. And that's just not where we are. And I think that just takes away everything that the deck had as far as tempo. The funny thing to remind you all about with Splinter Twin, though, is just how many decks the Splinter Twin combo was in back in the day. It was in Grixis. It was in Izzet. It was in
Teamer.
What's that?
Teamer?
Oh yeah, Teamer Twin.
Teamer, yeah, Tarmo Twin was another huge one where it was like, I'm going to play Tarmogoyfs and Twin and play a control game, and that's what it was. So it was everywhere.
it was the One Ring of that era of Magic.
I think it kind of was, and it's
yeah.
just way more vulnerable in a way.
Because it wasn't indestructible.
Right.
True.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I believe that there was a Grand Prix, and we've talked about this at some point in the past on the show, but there was a Grand Prix right before Splinter Twin was banned where it was 6 of the decks in the top 8, and it was 4 different decks with Splinter Twin, but it was still 6 Splinter Twin decks, something like that, which is, that's not going to, I don't think that's going to happen. One thing that's super interesting when we talk about Twin Energy is the fact that there are more combo options available with Splinter Twin than there were when it was banned. You were pretty much just stuck with Deceiver Exarch and Pestermites. And now, and I think Village Bellringer existed, but nobody was really playing that quite yet. But now you have Fear of Missing Out, which combos with Splinter Twin, which I literally cannot visualize how this combo works, but I have been assured by people that it works.
Pretty simple.
That's true, right?
Yeah,
Dana?
so you have Delirium, you twin the Fear, you activate, right? You make a copy of a new Fear. Now you have this you have this tapped, and this is your copy. The copy attacks, untaps the original. Before second combat phase, tap the original, make another copy. The new copy doesn't have the same line of text because that one hasn't attacked yet, and then infinite, that's it.
And then it works.
Yeah.
So you have infinite combat steps. So weirdly, you make a bunch of attackers that attack one time.
Yeah.
With FOMO,
the way
whereas
that
opposed
it
to
works.
Pestermite, you make a million.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Which is funny that you mentioned that because if your opponent has a 3/3 first strike creature, you can't actually beat that because they can first strike every time that you attack with the one copy because you only get one per chain.
Exactly.
So it's a little weird. When I was playing the Twinergy deck, I was playing Fear of Missing Out, and I had the twin combo available, but my opponent had Scion of Draco with Leyline of the Guildpact, and I'm like, how do I beat this?
Yeah, you don't. It's clearly worse.
Yeah, it is.
Because I mean, there might be, like you said, Scion of Draco is there. There's maybe another card, but also if you happen to have a creature that's indestructible for some random reason, it just sits there and blocks forever. So it works as a payoff, but it's not as deterministic, I guess you could say, or it's not going to win in every situation. Yeah, I don't know. I'll try it. I'll definitely be trying it over the holiday break. But I have the most doubts about this one. I mean, should we move on to like conclusions and stuff we're excited about from here?
Yes, because
You're ready.
I'm ready.
Your body is ready.
My body was ready 15 minutes ago.
Sorry, Stan.
It's so good.
Okay, so that's the deal. This is the new format.
That's the
Devin's
old
been
format.
playing a lot. Yeah. What's old is new again.
I want to come back to that question we put a pin in recently. An hour ago, Dave, which wasn't it like...
Can these
do you
cards
remember
compete with MH3?
Yes, here's what I said basically.
Yes.
If everybody's mad about how powerful the MH3 cards are, And what we do is release the old demons of Modern back into Demon, and they are the same level as MH3. Is that the best outcome of the MH3, the MH era overall?
I think the best outcome of that we can ask for in the future of Modern, and what I think defined previous eras of Modern that made it so beloved, wasn't the inclusion of cards like Mox Opal or Splinter Twin. It was the ability for us to have a deck that we loved for more than a year.
Yeah,
For
I think
more,
that's fair.
for more than the forced rotation of a premium product. That's what the good times were defined by. That people could play Storm for half a decade, right? That Primeval Titan like was able to kind of like exist for the better part of a decade. The list goes on. And I think giving us back these old cards, while it will be an interesting test to see if they can hang or if they really are still too strong and make the experience unfun. Like, I don't want this to open the door for them to continue pushing the power level through other premium direct-to-modern sets. Granted, I think we're kind of under the assumption now that direct-to-modern sets are on indefinite hiatus in the Universes Beyond Foundations era.
Very hard to tell from their announcement.
Yeah, they didn't really specify.
But I feel like they said two different things there, so I don't know.
But like, for me, the best possible outcome is that yes, these cards can hang, and yes, people can play with their beloved decks again, but also that they don't need to like cycle through their collection every year or two because of something from Universes Beyond or a Horizon set completely redefining the format fundamentally.
Yeah, I think that's a great take too, Stan.
Well, thank you.
If you need to go, Stan, you can go. We'll take it from here.
I was gonna say, my counterpoint to that would be, the question is, I guess, like we have to ask ourselves is, with these unbans, right? Something like Mox Opal, Green Sun, Zenith, Splinter Twin, and Faithless looting, do these change the dynamic of the format enough to kind of, in a weird indirect way, I know it's not a direct to modern product, but it sure feels like when you make this many changes that have the ability to impact the format in the ways that these cards can and likely will impact the format, does that also feel like, and maybe I'm just, so accustomed to the Modern Horizons 3 releases that this is kind of what's been ingrained in my mind, but does that also feel like a weird sort of semi-rotation kind of thing? And I guess the other question is, like, how often are they going to be willing to do this? They alluded to in the beginning of their article that this maybe this is the beginning of a new era where maybe they're going to be thinking about doing this more frequently.
Devin, they alluded to on the Play MTG video cast today that they almost unbanned GTA and Glimpse of Nature as well.
Oh, I missed that
in this same announcement.
Oh,
and
I missed that.
They decided not to at the last minute.
Okay.
Well, so
there you go.
Yes, I think there will be more. I think there really will be more, and we might have really wild stuff happen from here. A lot of people have said for a long time that like Blazing Shoal is just Colossus Hammer, unbanned Blazing Shoal. Like, there could be some really weird stuff that happens from here going forward.
My real question that I think will remain to be answered, right, is by the community, I suppose, is what WotC's effectively saying is, like, have fun. Like, you all seem like you want this stuff, and you were upset when the stuff was banned. Maybe you understood, or maybe you agreed. Let's unban some stuff and have fun. Let's just, let's throw some toys out into the kids because you guys have been whining long enough. They didn't exactly say that, right? But they basically are saying, like, make some memes happen, y'all. Like, have fun with your community. I think that there is a segment of players that do identify with this, like the people who have been, clamoring for a twin unban since it got banned, the people who, are graveyard aficionados, the people who are Mox Opal truthers, creature toolbox type folks, stuff like that, right? Like, those people are all going to look at this and be like, cool, like, there's some new options here. And maybe players who aren't like diehards who have used these cards in the past will also be like, cool, there's some new options for me to explore. This also is a huge shakeup, right? This is a direct influx of powerful cards from the past that will blow up existing strategies, reconfigure the power levels of what people have already done.
It may be a huge shakeup.
I mean, it'll be a huge shakeup, at least temporarily. Like,
yes.
And how it falls out remains to be seen. However, we are quickly approaching, important competitive events. Of course, those aren't necessarily like casual engagers with the format are likely not going to their RCs. If they are, congratulations.
But people are going to grind. You're right. And they're going to figure it out.
Well, what I mean more by that is people can perhaps sit back and watch, right? Like people, like I think like 30, I mean, Devin, I know your numbers were likely up quite a bit. And like, I saw like, I had seen, I know Everett's number is more than yours. And Everett was like down below like 1,000 pretty regularly, I think. Mm-hmm. And then on the unbanned day, it was like 3,500.
Yeah.
And like, that is an immense amount of people to be coming back, right? And saying, and like, in terms of numbers, like, we know that our numbers in terms of people engaged with our podcast had like gone down, like just overall. And like, I checked with other podcasters I talked to and like, yeah, we're down. Like everyone's just down. The engagement was low for people who focused on formats like Modern, formats like Pioneer, and, weren't arena streamers or something like that. So I guess what I'm getting at is I think that people, I hope, will enjoy kind of watching the fallout of this, whether they are as, content creators, game players, people who are observing from the audience. My midterm concern is that this does shake up the format in like a significant enough way where people sort of have the same thing happen, which is like, I have to redo everything that I was doing. Like I Mox Opal is like what, $150 now, $125. I didn't even check. Like it went wild.
It's absurd.
So it's like, okay, can I not play an artifact deck unless I buy Mox Opals? Well, that's not great. Like I was just a Kappa Cannoneer fan. You know what I mean? Or like, I mean, Faithless looting cheap card, right? But maybe it makes a bunch of stuff around it like go back up. I don't know. But I think there's opportunity cost in doing this kind of thing in terms of overall fun. Like it's not just like, we did this and then fun fills the room and all the boats go up, right? It creates like a really uneven sea. Like the waves are crashing and people can hopefully weather this in the way that they see fit and enjoy.
So a couple of examples here. Splinter Twin is $20 now.
What was it before
Green
the announcement?
Sun Zenith,
like 3?
What's that? I think it was probably 5 before the announcement. Green Sun Zenith on Card Kingdom, $34 now in the cheapest version.
Jeez.
What are the other cards? Faithless we already talked about, and then Mox Opal.
You don't want to look
at
at Mox Opal.
I think Mox is like 180.
150, 149,
but
90.
But this is also like
all out of stock.
Post-ban hype. Like these numbers are not final.
Yeah, these will stabilize a little. I can't imagine it'll stay this high.
I also think that, like, by and large, we are past the era of good cards costing more than $100. Like, Mox Opal being a $150 card is incentive for them to reprint it somewhere.
Yes. No, you're 100% right about that, too.
Yeah, how quickly they can do it is up to them.
Yeah. That's the other part. But look, this is fun. I think we're going to have fun with this time. I mean, regardless of what happens, I think that the next few months will be kind of like fun to observe, fun to experiment with, all of those kind of things. And that's a good thing, right? Even if maybe they don't have a grand plan, I still think it's interesting.
And maybe the grand plan is that like they don't need to have a plan because 75% of next year is devoted to standard.
Yeah.
They've like axed Pioneer from the competitive schedule. We'll have 3 months of competitive Modern to focus on, and the rest is just like 6 standard sets, 3 of them UB, and Modern can kind of ebb and flow. And if they want to do something again in March, they're willing to like shake it up significantly again at that point.
Yeah, I think what they said, and Devin, you brought it up again, is like this. I think by saying this is a new era, and by saying things like we want you to have fun and we want to go back to like the Modern of the past, what people think is fun and look on fondly, enjoy the memes. Like maybe I think they're just fully admitting that like Modern is potentially a format they want people to just have fun with. And if that means that Modern is less of a competitive format, I mean, there's been pros and competitive players who have always hated the fact that Modern was a competitive format, right? Because of the fact that it's really hard to sideboard for all the different power, the power levels of the deck, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to, really get an edge. So sure, lean into it. Like, lean into the fun. Like, again, how you measure fun is going to be different person by person. But I think, like, in terms of this, like, you can already tell that, yes, people think this is fun. Enough more people think it's fun than did before. And so hopefully that is, the scale is tipped more towards that for more people.
Yeah. You know what this almost feels like to me? Do you guys remember when Pioneer was first introduced as a format and they had basically weekly ban announcements? Like, almost you could basically turn up on a Monday and it's just like, oh, they banned 2 cards and whatever. And this is when they didn't really know what they were doing with the format. And it almost kind of feels to me that we've sort of, along the way of all these Horizons and direct to modern products, it almost feels like we've maybe, I mean, this is maybe it's too cliche to say this, but it almost feels like Modern has lost its identity. And I think part of what they're doing today is trying to maybe have Modern we're trying to get the identity of the format back. And I'm curious to see if, you mentioned the GT and Glimpse. I wonder if they even have more cards on their list, and maybe they're willing to make drastic changes and more changes than you would ever expect on a sort of, tri-monthly basis.
Devin, what do you think is the best use of someone's time right now? If, let's say, hypothetically, they're qualified for Portland, the deck that they used to qualify for maybe isn't, it certainly doesn't look the same. Like, do you just kind of go into the weeds and like play a little bit of everything as it's shaken out? Because I imagine within a month, we're going to know what the metagame looks like. In the net deck era, these things don't stay secret for very long.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true, given the extent of how many different things you can do with Opal and looting. Certainly Twin and Zenith are maybe a little bit more linear in that regard. But I think we can all agree that Opal and looting are far and away the 2 best cards out of these 4. And I think that trying to maximize those 2 cards would be my main focus. Maybe if I had, less time, maybe I'd rather focus on Opal, because personally, I think Opal is more broken in terms of, it's the power ceiling on it. But I would probably focus a lot of my efforts on like trying to find the best Mox Opal deck. Then maybe I'm biased, and that's fine.
Wow. Money bags over here.
I don't own them, and I'm not going to buy them. I'm going to have to borrow them.
Yeah. I do think Opal's the most powerful card that was unbanned. Like, hands down. It's just a question of if you want to play the deck that it ends up being good in. Because it could end up being good in Urza, Lord High Artificer, and who wants to play that?
I mean, that card's fine.
I was going to say, other than Dr. Martin. I'm excited, though. I mean, I told people earlier, I don't think I said on the show, like what I bought yesterday. I bought 4 Detectives Phoenix and 4 Fear of Missing Out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't have those yet. And so I was like, well, this is where I'm starting. Let's see what happens from here.
Do you still have the lootings?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, why? Where would they go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
true.
I still have I have Splinter Twin, too. I mean, I have Oko, Uro. Like, I got a lot of banned cards just in my collection waiting to come back.
I got Furies.
Fury. Yeah, I kept Fury. I kind of thought they were going to unban Fury, guys. Is that a crazy thought? But they didn't. So we'll see.
I'm excited. That's all I can say. I've been having the most fun that I've had in a long time over the past couple of days, and I'm looking forward to the future.
That's awesome.
That's good. All right. Well, that wraps up this week's show. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe our podcast so you get the latest episodes as soon as they come out. The next one will be sometime in early January. And if you use Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and a review. If you'd like to submit a question to the podcast or reach out, you can tweet us at the Dive Down all one word or email the divedown@gmail.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky. You can find Stan at magicthegathering.bluesky.com.
Yeah.
By the way.
Until they
see and
rip
be
us out of my cold dead hands.
Social? How does that work?
Yeah, whatever it is. Bluesky.social. I think it's bsky.social, yeah. If you'd like to support the show, let us know the love. Send us a Christmas present, whatever you're thinking. Patreon.com/thedivedown. Check out the store at thedivedown.com/store. Go check out Heavy Play. Use the code thedivedown2024 for 10% off and help us out. Shout out to Mana Traders. You can sign up for them using code The Dive Down for that 25% cash back after your first 3 months. And as always, special thanks to the bands Nowhere and Space Blood for letting us use their music. Until next week, get out there and
cast Faithless looting.
I was going to say Splinter twin some people.
No, don't do that.
Cast Mox Opal. Yeah, we are not Green Sun Zenith players.